I don't want to be disrespectful.
I don't know if we have to cut this out, but...
We have to cut this out?
Okay, let's just cut it
Yeah, okay.
They say home is where the heart is, so I wonder why your motherfucker always feeling heartless.
Welcome to the third episode of Doubly Negative. We don't really have a topic for this episode that we plan on sticking to. We kind of just go with the flow, so we're going to keep that trend going. I'm Chris. I'm here with Kyle.
Hello.
So it's been a little less than a week since I last seen you. Actually, we hung out Saturday, but we didn't really get to talk much. How have you been?
I've been doing better.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel pretty good right now.
Just overall, just energy levels and wanting to be productive.
Yeah. The first thing I noticed is that, whereas a couple weeks ago I had, a lot of things on my mind that I should do, like go to the doctors, get a social security card, all these bullshit things I don't want to do.
Get a social security card?
Yeah, my life is in shambles.
Jesus Christ.
I haven't been to the doctor in 10 years. I don't have a social security card. I don't have a license. I've been driving every day without a license.
Wow.
Yeah. And everybody in my family knows. They're just like, yeah, Kyle doesn't want to do that stuff.
Well, at this point, there's that's Kyle.
Exactly.
That's just Kyle. So what happened to your original social security card? Because I've had the same one since birth.
Oh, man, I don't know where it is. Because when I left the States, I was like, well, I don't need this. And I must have put it somewhere.
I don't need this.
Yeah, because I don't need one when I'm traveling to other countries. I thought it was going to be safer at home, too.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So I made a conscious decision to put it somewhere, and then I just forgot where it was. It might be in Texas, it might be here, but I don't know where.
I have a confession to make.
Yep.
I have no idea where mine is right now either, honestly. I think it's somewhere in this house.
Push come to shove, you could find it. Right?
Push come to shove, I'd be able to find it.
Yep. My problem is that my mom's in charge of the stuff at her house, and then I got Sandra in Texas, and I asked both of them, and neither one of them knows where it is. So maybe if I look through it, I could find it, but I don't know.
So are you in the process of getting a new one? I've heard that's very difficult.
Well, I don't know. That was that was my whole thing. I've been home for a bunch of months already.
Yeah.
And this is stuff that I just don't want to do, and because I was depressed, it was near impossible.
I put things off forever.
Yeah.
For as long as possible, really.
And especially if you're depressed and you're just lazy and you don't want to do anything, trying to figure that shit out is the worst.
Make an appointment? Are you kidding me?
Especially if you don't have to, right? So you just put it off and put it off. Anyway, the whole point is this last week I've been feeling a little bit more energetic, and I've kind of started making steps into that stuff. So that's just one sign to myself that, I must be getting better if I want to do that shit.
Yeah, and that's great. I know me, you, and our friend Pete had gotten together on Sunday. We kicked a soccer ball around. We're a little active, and you guys went for a run after, and that's awesome. Because that's a tough thing to do when you don't feel like doing anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then another weird thing that I noticed is that, so one part of being depressed is you're just not interested in stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a weird thing I noticed last night, but I was watching True Detective we were talking about.
Yep.
And anything I didn't know about, I just Googled while I was watching it. And it just showed me that I was more interested in stuff. I'm like, oh, what's that? What's that?
You're actually invested in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas before, if you're depressed, you're just sitting there, you're like, I don't fucking care.
You're not even paying attention to what's on the TV.
Yeah, exactly. You're just trying to distract yourself.
Yeah. I mean, when you came in my house today to record the podcast, I had a record playing, I had the Celtics game on, and I was scrolling my phone. Not paying attention to any of those three things exclusively, just filling up my mind with endless bullshit.
Turning your brain off.
Yeah. Yep. So that's essentially what I did. But overall, I've been feeling a lot better as well. Ever since I started the diet, I'm losing weight. I'm seeing numbers on the scale go down. Exercising more, going to jiu-jitsu. I'm feeling a lot better, and my energy levels have been significantly better in the past... Well, since I last saw you when we recorded, which was, I think, Wednesday last week. So
good stuff.
Yeah, no, it feels good.
Did you get those dick pills yet?
They're not dick pills. It's testosterone boosters, and I have a package of them in my car for you before you leave.
Have you started using them?
Oh, yeah.
For dick? That's just one part of testosterone, man. So the first thing I think of when I think of testosterone is harder dick.
I mean, on the label it says it increases libido.
Sure it does.
I haven't noticed much of a difference, but I'm sure after a week of using it, maybe I will.
Well, because, dick hardness is a very fluctuating variable. For me, it has been anyway. I mean, it's not always going to be a 10.
It all depends on the moment.
Sure.
You know, there are some moments where it's a 10, you're ready to go. And there are some moments when it's a 6, but you can work with it.
Sure, but for the purposes of this, so talk about like a floating average. Like let's say your dick hardness is usually like an 8, right? But then you notice it drop into like a 7 for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking is, are these pills going to give you like a 0.5 increase, or
I'd probably say, I would say 1 to 2 point increase.
Oh, I'm very excited then.
Yeah, because like I said, my energy levels were up after I took the first one. I was like, okay, right, and could have been placebo. Like, oh, I'm taking this, and I think it's gonna make me a better person, and just rolling with it. But whoever says placebos don't work, they do. As long as you can trick your mind into it.
Yeah, but what about the dick?
I haven't noticed a difference. I don't know. It's too soon to tell you whether my dick is harder or not using these pills.
You're giving me some. I'm going to start taking them. How about next time we check in, we specifically make a note between now and then to kind of pay attention to the dick hardness, see what happens.
So we had spoke about doing weekly check-ins about how we're feeling depression-wise, but I think if we pivot to how's your dick been?
Yes.
It might be more appealing to the viewers.
Weekly dick check-in.
How's your dick?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, no, we can definitely work off of that. We'll figure something out. But I guess maybe we should get back on topic now. Enough about our dicks.
Okay.
So last episode we ended with a little chat about Sam Harris and his theory on if human beings actually have free will. I was skeptical when you first brought it up. Further along in our conversation, I was semi-convinced. I watched the video today, and I think I'm fully convinced. Well, I finished it today.
All right. Okay.
Because I've always been... He references nature versus nurture a lot, and he's always on the... Not a lot, but he referenced it at least a few times in this video, and he talks a lot about the nature aspect of things and you developing into the person you are based on the environment you're brought up in. And I've always been a firm believer in that it's nature, not nurture. So when he's describing this, I'm like, okay, this coincides with a lot of the things I think already. This isn't that crazy.
So just to give a refresh on the whole topic, because it's kind of a little bit confusing.
I probably should have done that, yeah.
When we talk about free will, we're talking about do we have the ability to make choices in life? So, for example, I came here to record this podcast. Did I make that choice? Was there any possibility of me not coming here instead of coming here? And if we have free will, then I say, yes, I could have stayed home. If we don't have free will, then no, I was always going to come here. Based on what was happening, I never made a conscious choice. It was just, I was kind of on autopilot. So Sam Harris says that we don't make choices. The world is deterministic.
So anyone listening to just you saying that might think, that's crazy, you obviously have free will, you can make the choice to go or not go.
Right.
But when you boil it down to not just tonight and bring it back to a collection of all your life, your whole life's experience, that is what makes it interesting. Because you're like, yeah, I made the choice to go, but are you molded to a point throughout your life where that is what made you make that decision? So therefore, everything that coincided before this very moment was molded by something not by you. If that makes any sense. I kind of went off a little bit there.
No, it does make sense. And yeah, that's the idea. The idea is that the universe works based on cause and effect. Something happens because something made it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So who you are right now is largely in part because of who you were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And things that happened yesterday cause what happened today. And if we don't have free will, which I don't think we do.
I really don't think we do either.
All the choices you make are based on things that happened to you before. And when we say, oh, well, I made a choice, why did you make that choice? Well, the idea that decided that came up in your head. Did you choose for that to come up in your head, or did it just come up in your head? And that basically, are we just watching life happen to us?
Yeah, and this boils down to the genes that are passed down to you from your parents. This boils down to how you were raised as a kid, how much pressure your parents put on you in certain aspects of life, whether it's religion or sports or anything. Like it all goes back to that.
Right. Yeah, you didn't choose anything about your life. You didn't choose where you were born, who you were born to, the country you were born in. You chose nothing.
And I think religion is a very huge indicator of that, because obviously if you look regionally, different regions have more predominant religions. So they all differ in a certain way based on where you're born.
Yep.
So like I think that's like one of the major indicators in this whole theory.
Indicators. What do you mean?
Like okay, like something that proves the theory is like has some weight to it. So it's like obviously if I wasn't born here and I was born in another country, I would think differently about like I would have been raised with different religion in my life. You know what I mean?
Almost
like
absolutely.
yeah. So like I like my family, like I went to church once in a while. I think Christian church, maybe. I made my first communion, did all that stuff. I wouldn't have done that in another country.
That's one of my favorite things, talking to religious people, because I've met a lot of religious people in the last few years, and I usually don't really challenge them most of the time.
No.
But once in a while, I have met some smarter religious people. Well, not whatever, and we'll have more open conversation, right? Well, it's like I met somebody that I actually enjoy talking with, and the topic of religion comes up, and I can see they're open minded.
Exactly,
right?
and that's the biggest part.
And so I'll ask a bunch of questions, and this is always one that I ask. It's like, okay, what if you were born in a country where you never even heard about your religion today?
Mm-hmm.
So what? You're Christian, right?
Yep.
And you were born in, I don't know, there's like one part of the world that's completely untouched. I know there's like a tribe.
Yep.
Right? So what if you're born as one of those people? You're saying that your God now would put you in hell for being one of those people. You were born, you had no chance of even hearing about Catholicism or whatever the hell it is.
But you're in hell because of it.
You're in hell because of it. And usually, I met one smart guy a few months ago. I asked him this question, and he really said this. He said, "Yeah, it just sucks."
Really?
Yeah.
That was his response?
He's like, I know. He's like, I know. Like logically, it really sucks, and I completely understand where you're coming from, but that's what I believe. That just sucks.
And
what? How can you believe that?
but if he was born in a different country and was a different person, he wouldn't think that sucked. He would think something else, and he was doing the right thing.
How can you? Indefensible, in my opinion.
So since we're on the topic, I don't know. Are you religious like at all? Are you agnostic, atheist?
No, agnostic.
So you believe there's a higher power somewhere?
I believe I don't know. Yeah, agnosticism is just not knowing.
Okay, and atheism is the belief of nothing.
Yes, atheism is kind of like religion, in my opinion, because you're saying, no, there's nothing. I know there's nothing. But how could you possibly know, in my opinion?
Since I'm undereducated, I was atheist until you just told me that, so I'm agnostic now.
Yeah.
You just converted me.
Okay.
Yeah, you're like one of those pushy Christians. You convert me to your religion.
I'm very pushy about my religion, yeah.
That's the one thing about religion that I think that's the worst part is the pushy ones. Like I think religion holds it does a lot of good things for people, like the sense of community and having people that all believe in the same common thing and you feel like you're a part of something. And I think that part of religion is very important for someone to have in their life, but it's the pushy stuff that it's like, dude, I don't believe it. You're not going to convince me. Like, just please go away.
I can honestly say I haven't encountered anyone like that in my recent memory. Have you?
I mean, there are people that I've come across that have been like religions come up and I've been like, yeah, it's not my thing. And they've been like trying to like talk to me about it a little bit. And like,
Yeah.
it seems like they're almost convincing me like passively, but like, it's not something you deal with every day.
You know, that's funny because I just remembered that's another topic I talked about with the same guy. And I kind of made this point. We had a really in-depth talk about this.
Yep.
And I made this one point that said, okay, so his belief is that if you follow his religion, you're going to heaven. If you do not follow his religion, you're going to hell, right? So I got him to that point, which is what most religious people believe, I believe. Like, in their own religion, it's like that. If you're not one of us, you're going to hell, right?
Yeah, sorry, won't see you there.
Yeah, so I made this point. I said, okay, that's what you really believe, right? And he goes, yeah. I said, so you think I'm going to hell? And he's like, you can convert. I said, if you really believe that, shouldn't you spend your whole life trying to convert everyone all the time? Like, if you care about me, you should be trying really hard.
Yeah. Like, it's going to be tough when you get to heaven and, like, your best friend's not there because he didn't believe it. You know, it's got to be a tough spot to be. Do you even want to be there at that point?
Yeah.
That's my question.
So, what I think really about religion is that most people are religious socially.
socially, and I think a big thing is just people being afraid to die and having absolutely nothing be there afterwards.
But I don't think they really believe it. Because...
Believe what? What do you mean? Like
in their own religion. On a deep level. Like, maybe they believe it, but... Okay, think about it like this. I know many religious people.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of them are breaking their religious rules all the time.
Yeah.
If you really believed it, wouldn't you spend your whole life doing the perfect thing?
Yeah, because if you believe that, your main goal is to get to heaven afterwards. So you're going to follow that so you don't jeopardize that.
There would be no point in risking it ever.
Yeah.
Because, okay, let's say, I don't really understand these religions, to be completely honest.
I have no clue.
Okay.
I watched Zeitgeist a few times, and, you know, that's pretty much my religious background now.
I could easily get stuff wrong, but I think, I don't know if it's Catholicism, but I'm pretty sure they say, well, you can sin, but as long as you confess and repent, you're okay again, right?
But how many people go to confession that actually, quote-unquote, sin?
Or even put it like this. So let's say that's what you believe, right?
Yep.
So you have to repent. Okay, fine, you can get away with it. But how do you know when you're drinking or doing whatever it is that you don't just die right then and there?
Yeah.
You're taking a huge fucking risk every time you sin. Like, if you really believed, wouldn't you have to avoid sinning all the time?
Yeah, definitely.
You'd have to be perfect.
Yeah, and that's absurd.
But actually, we can tie this whole thing into free will, too. Because for religion to work, you have to believe in free will. You have to say, I'm going to heaven because I made the right choices. If there's no free will, a God that would put you in hell for the wrong choices would be illogical completely.
Yeah, because if you have free will and you make the right choices, then you go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no free will, then you're destined to just make the right choices.
Exactly.
And that's not on you if you don't.
And that's where the idea for a lot of this, if you make the right choices, are you a good person? Are you better than someone that makes the wrong choices? I think this is the biggest takeaway for me, is that because I don't really believe we make our own choices,
Mm-hmm.
when I look at other people that have done really, really bad things, or even someone that's really hurt me, for instance, my last ex-girlfriend,
Yep.
she hurt me pretty bad. She did some pretty bad things. Since I don't really believe that she made those choices, I kind of think she was just destined to make those choices.
Yeah.
I can kind of have less hatred towards her.
That makes a lot of sense because if we believe in this theory that there's no free will, then you know that person is just shaped by things that they've experienced while they're growing up or what's going on in their life now. So she was influenced from the outside and it's not actually her.
Yeah, there's less room for blame, because a lot of the anger we have towards people that do things to us is like, they did that to me. They chose to do that to me.
Yeah, like that was their decision.
Yep. But it's probably not like that. And in the talk that you listened to today, Sam Harris talked about the difference between being killed by a human being and being killed by a crocodile, right?
You expect that crocodile to do that. I think he used bear in the analogy. He said if there's a bear in the parking lot, it's going to try to eat you.
So you wouldn't hate the bear.
You'd understand because that's its nature.
But if a human being does it, you might spend a lot of time hating that person, thinking about how awful they are, when in truth, they were just like the bear.
Yeah.
It's just their nature.
They were shaped by their environment and made those choices based on the environment they were shaped in.
And if you traded places with them, you would do exactly what they were doing. There's really no part of you left to judge them and say, well, they're a bad person. It's because they didn't have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I see that with a lot of ex-girlfriends, arguments I've had with them, down the years I've been like, okay, well, they think this way because this is how they were brought up. This is what they've experienced, and I understand why they think that way, and I can't really be mad at them for it. So, that was something that was going through my head before I even watched this Sam Harris seminar. I feel like I kind of believed it before I knew about it.
That's one thing I've done a lot is put myself in the other person's shoes.
And it's important to do that, especially when you believe what you believe with the human beings not having free will. You have to be able to say, okay, well, they're thinking this way because this.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're thinking that way because of that, it's not their fault. So I can't really be mad at them for it, but I want to have a discussion about it and why it affected me.
It might sound kind of depressing or sad, but when you get down to it, let's say a person let's say somebody cheats on you, right?
Yep.
It's kind of human nature for me anyway to take it really personally
Oh, definitely.
and say, well, she did this to me. She did this because, so it's me. Like we take everything like the world revolves around us, right?
And that's like me and you talking last episode where it's like, oh, I'm looking fat. Everyone notices when no one
Exactly.
gives a fuck.
And that's kind of what I'm getting to is like, so if someone does something to you, you take it a lot less personally when you realize they did it because they were in pain for some reason, probably. It's never really about the person.
No.
And that's why I look at what a lot of people do. If somebody hurts me, I usually try to think of it like, well, they did it because they were in a lot of pain for whatever reason. It wasn't really personal towards me. It's just like a bear killing you, right? The bear's just hungry or to protecting its territory.
Yeah.
It's a bear. And the person is just, they're doing what they're doing. They've probably done it before. They'll probably do it again. It really doesn't have anything to do with you. It's better to just avoid people like that if you know that about them. This doesn't mean that you have to associate with everybody because it's nobody's fault. It just means you don't hate them for it. You don't blame them for it.
Just understand it.
Yeah.
And you understanding it rather than holding that hatred and blame is going to be better for you in the long run.
Absolutely.
Okay, I understand why they did this. Like, it's nothing personal against me. It is what it is. So,
another good takeaway from it is that you can kind of be easier on yourself.
oh yeah, because I put a lot of blame on myself. Like, going through this divorce, I was like, oh, maybe I wasn't like that great of a husband. Like, maybe I wasn't doing this. Maybe I wasn't doing that. And it's like, in reality, I was doing that, but this just happened because that's how they were brought up. That's how they think things are okay, and that's what they're going to do. It's going to happen.
Yeah. I think you're just doing the best you can.
Yeah.
Everybody's just doing the best they can
Yeah.
with what they're given.
Exactly.
So, like, I love the diet as an example of the whole free will thing. You're on a diet right now. You're following it pretty well. But at some point you haven't, right?
No, I've been unbelievably strict this whole week.
And I've gone through similar phases, and I've gone through the opposite. And the reason I don't think free will makes sense in this example is I've held a value for myself that eating good is better. Being in shape is better. That's something I believe truly.
Yes.
I've never not believed that. But sometimes I can do it and sometimes I can't. Why can you do it sometimes and why can't you sometimes? There doesn't seem to be a choice I'm making. It's not like okay, today I'm going to be unhealthy on purpose. You know?
No, it's just like you get that temptation and you just fucking go for it.
Today I'm just going to break my diet on purpose. No, it doesn't work like that. It's just these different variables I can't control. One of those is the craving.
Yep.
One of those is just how bad of a mood I wake up in.
Mm-hmm.
One of a variable is what happens to me that day. At no point am I strong enough or weak enough to say, okay, I'm going to keep my diet or I'm going to break my diet. It's just not really my fault. I know that sounds kind of stupid if you don't believe in this stuff, but I don't really think it's my fault. I don't know.
No, I understand what you mean. And I misunderstood you when you're like, and you've been pretty well with it, but you've cheated. I was like, I have not cheated at all yet. But in past diets, you meant dieting in general throughout my life.
Yep.
No, I go through vicious cycles where I'm either super strict or I'm off the fucking rails, which is why I chose keto, because I have to be as strict as possible. If I give myself any room for error, I'm going to make that error hard. And I'm going to ride that momentum until it's too late.
Yep.
So I have to take out any room for error, be as strict as possible, and just run with that, because that's what keeps me on track.
Giving yourself less opportunity to fail.
Yes, exactly. So it's just like when you're training a dog, right? If you keep food on the counter and you keep food on the table and you keep stuff around that he's not supposed to chew, especially a puppy, he's going to chew it because that's in his nature. Mm-hmm. If you give the dog less room for error, he's not going to go for that stuff, and eventually he's going to grow to a point where he's like, I'm not interested in that. I didn't really see that as a puppy. What I'm interested in is the toys that you gave me, because that's what I'm surrounded with.
So you're going to use more toys and
more
less
toys.
Carbs.
Yes. More fats. It seems so counterintuitive. Like when I'm making myself a snack and it's a piece of cheese with pepperoni in it and I fold it, I feel like, wow, this does not make any sense at all.
Yeah. I used to do the keto in college at URI.
Yep.
I would carry in my backpack like a Ziploc bag of bacon and cheddar cheese.
That's the fattest thing anyone can ever do, but you're losing weight doing it.
I actually was not that good at it. I didn't lose weight, but I should have been. Yeah, that's a good snack for keto.
It's awesome. See, like if you're really good with it, like for instance, I've lost 8 pounds since I last saw you last Wednesday.
That's a lot.
It's all water weight, and if I have one carb, I'm gonna look like Rosie O'Donnell. But no room for error. Got to make sure I don't have that room for error. And me and you, being former fat kids, we've had body imaging issues since we were fat kids, and just looking in the mirror and seeing that slob, it gets you to a point where it's like, I gotta do something.
Yeah, that's good in a way, but also it's really bad.
It's bad for your mental health. It's good for your physical health.
Yeah.
Because you'll see it and be like, I gotta do something and I'm gonna make this change. But like your mental health, you just look at yourself every day and you're like, you're a goddamn piece of shit. Like, what are you doing?
I always think about how I think, so you could almost classify that as like the same thing as if you're an alcoholic and then you go off and you have alcohol for a while, right?
Yep.
So if you're like us, you want to be, healthy, and you go off the rails and you gain a bunch of weight. It's kind of the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I always think about the turning point as kind of hitting bottom.
Yeah.
Like for me, I started dieting myself like 3 weeks ago, probably.
Yep.
And I feel like I hit bottom slightly before that. But like, it just reached the point where I just couldn't be an asshole that was eating everything anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore.
I feel like you gotta hit bottom to just really realize, like, I gotta make a change now.
Yeah.
Like, something's gotta give. I cannot continue to live this lifestyle, or I'm gonna end up on my 700-pound life just struggling.
And some of those bottoms throughout your life are lower than other ones, right? So
there's more. Sorry to cut you off. There's different types of bottoms. Like, for us with depression, or us with our body weight. Like, obviously the body weight, if that hits bottom, it's going to bring the depression bottom further down. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's different types of bottoms, and I feel like a lot of times you have to hit bottom to realize you need to make a change to go forward and fix it.
Doesn't it suck when you're okay? So I think it was beginning of January when I was first okay, I gotta turn things around, right?
Yeah, this is not going well.
But for 2 weeks in a row, I'd be like, okay, tomorrow. No, tomorrow.
My diet has always started tomorrow.
Yeah,
but tomorrow is always tomorrow, depending on when you say it.
And every day I would have in my mind, I really want those. I think I already talked about them on the podcast, those cookies at Walmart, whatever. That's
Stop and Shop, I thought.
Yeah, Stop and Shop. All of them.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I want those tonight. Okay, tomorrow. And then I wake up the next day, I really want Chick-fil-A. Okay, tomorrow.
I always rationalize it with, all right, this is my last hoorah, my last day as a fat kid, let's enjoy it. But I keep enjoying it for days on end, and it just gets even further off the rails. But I feel like when you finally do jump into that diet and stick to it, it improves everything. The happiest I've been in a while has been since I've gotten on the scale and seeing the numbers go down and just oh, I'm having more energy. It's all not a placebo. I wouldn't say it's a placebo effect when you're just it feels like you're on a roll almost.
No, it's not placebo.
No?
It's just good momentum.
Okay, so momentum. But a lot of people will be like, oh, if you're on keto, you'll have higher energy levels. You won't feel sleepy.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay,
yeah, I meant
placebo.
Yeah, so that's what I meant by placebo, not as far as the momentum thing. Because I really believe in the momentum thing. I'm very inconsistent with taking my vitamins. Since I started this diet, I'm taking my vitamins multiple times a day, staying on top of it. Little sidetrack. So when you take a lot of vitamins, your pee is highlighter yellow.
Sure.
Mine hasn't been, and that's made me think that I'm very vitamin deficient somewhere.
Could be.
Yeah, that's from me going off the rails and having my last hoorah as a fat kid for multiple days in a row.
And the thing that stood out to me there was when you said you start dieting and you're feeling better, and you go, well, this is the happiest I've been in a while, right? But you knew that because the same thing happened last time, right? Whenever the last time you went through this cycle, when you kind of went off the rails and then you started doing better, you knew that again, I feel better when I'm doing this. So why can't we do it sometimes? Why do we go off the rails at all?
I really have no idea. I feel like sometimes it can come down to being comfortable. You know what I mean? I feel like everyone always gets in their best shape after a breakup.
But even when you're in a relationship, you knew that you feel better when you're doing well. So why not just do well?
That's a great question, but I fall into that every time. Not every time. It really depends. But it depends on the quality of the relationship. If it's going well and I'm actually happy, I'll keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And if it's shit, it's well, I'm in the shit already. Maybe that's it.
But it's the free will stuff again. And if you do take that mindset that we don't really make our own choices, maybe you can hate yourself less during the bad periods.
I don't know if I personally can because I hate myself a lot during the bad periods.
Me too. But maybe you could just be like, well, there's all these reasons.
Yeah.
It's not you choosing to be lazy and all that stuff. It's just life.
Because especially in a relationship, when you bring that other factor in, there's something else that you brought into your life that's constantly influencing your decisions.
Mm-hmm. So never be in a relationship.
Yeah, so you have more free will than you could have had.
Okay, no relationships.
Noted. Mark it down, because we're done with them.
Yeah, certainly.
So, speaking of relationships, we had talked, you said you haven't even bothered going on Tinder or anything like that. You're not trying to really form anything right now.
I'll swipe, but for the most part, not really interested at the moment.
Really? You just have no interest in you don't feel like you need to have that person to talk to, like someone to talk to?
Okay, so that's kind of a cop-out saying I'm not interested. Of course, I would,
Yeah.
Of course, But I feel like I'll probably leaving the States anytime.
Okay.
So that's part of it. And then my living situation right now is not so good either. And I'm pretty lazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess all the difficulty that I envision seem larger than the payoff
And that's
at this moment in time.
And that's those circumstances influencing your decision to
Absolutely.
not date. Yeah, I feel like if I was in your shoes and, I lived in Bali or Indonesia and I was coming somewhere else for a little while, I'd be like, oh, let's swipe and see what new stuff I can take a look at. But like you said, with your situation, it's one of those things where, why bother?
But the funny thing is, it's probably just all rationalizations, same as the diet stuff, right? So as soon as I do date again, whenever it does happen,
Yep.
I'll probably have a similar feeling as you do when you look at the scale. I'll probably be like, oh, this is the best I've felt in a while.
Yeah, I'm getting attention.
Why didn't I do this before, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you haven't been really swiping since you're in the U.S. So when was the last time you had a relationship?
I broke up in May of last year.
May of last year, so 2020?
Yes.
Okay. That's a pretty long time. I know I'm a relationship type of guy. I like to have that stability, have someone that's there, have someone to work with. You don't seem to be the same type in that aspect. We have a lot of similarities, but as far as relationships and dating goes, it seems like you're fine dating around and just being yourself, worrying about you.
I think I'm just a lot more cautious to get into your typical traditional relationship.
And I think that's a good thing. I think I'm not cautious enough.
Well, it depends on the person. Maybe, everybody's different, right? But I think I've just gotten to know myself more and kind of watched my own patterns and realized that there just might be more to be lost than gained most of the time. And you have to really pick very carefully.
Yeah, because that whole cycle sucks. When you start falling for someone, it's going really well, and then something bad happens and it all comes crashing down. And that doesn't help with guys like us that are already dealing with shit.
And it's not like I don't have that same tendency, too, because, okay, so let's say I got out of a relationship, right? I meet a new girl. I usually do have strong feelings go, oh, I want to be in a relationship again.
Do you catch those feelings pretty quickly? Or are you someone that will drag out dating, like, casually for months and months and months on end?
When it happens, they come pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but I have to be cautious. So it is like, it's not that I wouldn't want it. It's just like I kind of I can almost liken it to like kind of almost breaking the diet, right?
Yeah.
It's something that I know would feel good, but I don't think it would really be good for me.
Long term, yeah.
So that's why when I have those feelings, a lot of the time, I would take a really long time to make a decision based on it.
No, it's good to be cautious because, like, I feel like you can know someone for a really long time, even if, like, you're just casually talking to someone, friends with them, and then eventually you get in a relationship. You can know them for a long time, but, like, you don't know them in certain situations. Like, you don't know how it's like living with them. You don't know what it's like sharing a life with them. You learn a lot of things about these people down the line, and people always change. So it's always so tough to think like, oh, this girl, it's really cool. We've been talking for a couple months. It's going great. But like, you don't know the bad stuff that's going to come, because there's going to be stuff that comes up that's not going to fly, So I think your approach is a lot better than my approach.
Maybe. The other thing is too, and you're right about getting to know someone takes a while.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I think is probably even more important in my experience is understanding that a lot of what you feel in the early stages with someone is just chemistry that's completely out of your hands. It's like all these hormones. And so a lot of people, when they get that first, so say you meet a girl and you have a great first date, a great second date, great third date, you sleep together, you love her, right? You're thinking about her all the time.
Yep.
Most of that is just chemicals that are not going to be there in 6 months or a year. Your body is telling you to mate with her, basically. That's kind of what love is. It's like oxytocin, and there's a couple other chemicals that are released all the time in the early stages of a relationship. And that's going to go away.
That's the honeymoon phase.
Yes, that will go away, guaranteed.
100%.
And I'm always very cognizant of that. I'm like, do I really like this girl, or is my body just telling me I like this girl?
But here's the thing, like, if you ever want to, like, get married or, like, have kids, like, if that's in your life plans, you have to understand that's going to happen and accept it.
Really accept it, too, though, because I think you're absolutely right. And I think everybody says that.
Yep.
But I don't think people really behave that in a lot of the time.
Well, that's why most marriages end in divorce.
Yeah, because they'll say that. They'll say, well, that's gonna stop.
Yeah, we know. Like, we know, yeah.
But then when it really stops, then they're in the same house with this person. They're like, I don't even like them.
No. This is just like an annoying roommate at this point.
Yep. And then what happens is when they cheat, they get those same feelings they had for the first time in, let's say, 10 years, if it's a marriage or something like that.
Yeah.
And now they think they're in love with that person, and they think, well, this other person,
they're giving me everything that person's not giving me. And what that means is,
this person's the one. I thought it was that one, but now it's this new one.
Yeah.
But really, it's just those chemicals tricking you again.
Yeah, exactly. So it's...
Actually, how often has that happened? There's a lot of stories like this. So let's say a guy and a girl get married, right? Well, this used to be a thing back in the 50s and 60s more, but still is today. Man and woman get married. 10, 15 years go by. The guy has an affair with his secretary.
Tale as old as time.
Breaks up with the wife, marries the secretary.
Mm-hmm.
Was with the secretary for a while. Breaks up with her, cheats on her, marries the next one. There's a lot of guys that do this habitually. A lot of guys get married 3-4 times, and this is how it happens. It's just because they're getting those new chemicals with that new person.
Yeah.
And now they go, oh, no, I'm in love with this one. My wife, she wasn't the one. No, now I'm in love with this one. This one. And it always has that quality, too. Even if you know about this, it always has that quality when you feel that.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of feel like it's never going to end. Because you can't really imagine it ending.
You couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And that's also why we were talking about this before. Like, when you say, oh, well, the passion's going to die, we have to really... So you know it, but you don't really believe it.
No, you don't believe it. You think, it's going to happen. Be like, no, I'm going to be with this person forever. This is what I want. But, like, I feel like a lot of people don't understand in relationships that it's hard work, especially once those chemicals die down, and you need to really want to be with that person. And I think people are so quick to get engaged because that's the thing I'm supposed to do and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, really make sure you want to work at this, because this is not just all happiness all the time. It's going to be something that's going to drive you to the point of insanity, but you just have to think that person is worth it. And
you have to make that decision, let's say now, and know that you're going to agree with that decision in 10 years or 20 years or the rest of your life.
Yeah.
See, that's the part that I can't get to myself. I can't really reconcile that.
No, yeah, it seems almost impossible. It really seems almost impossible.
I think if you really want kids, that's probably the way to make that decision.
Yeah.
Like you say, well, I want kids, so I have to sacrifice romantic happiness.
Yeah, because I'm this age and it needs to happen soon.
Yeah.
So let's make it happen.
But I'm not there, so.
No. And we're both, you're 32, 33?
32.
32, I'm 29. We're both getting up there.
That's what society wants us to believe.
Yeah, yeah. Definitely, yeah, because it's always like, oh, I had you at 22, and now it's like, 22? Imagine having a kid at 22.
Dude, we're so lucky to be guys.
Oh.
Dude, we could have kids at like 55, 60 if we wanted to.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem.
Yeah.
But women my age are like super worried. That sucks.
They're like, my eggs are gone.
Oh, they're so upset.
Yeah, so that's another thing that's scary too. You start dating at this age, you start talking to someone and it's like, are they in a rush to have kids or something like right now? Because right now is not the time. That's a lot.
True. Yeah.
It's a lot.
But I do think, like, we say that amongst ourselves, like, oh, I'm getting old. And I think society does want us to think that we're getting old, but I've also heard the opposite. Like, I heard it gets better and better if you're a man until you're, like, 40, 50.
Just a thought that popped in our head. We kind of just go with the flow here. We don't even have a topic in the beginning of every episode. We just kind of talk before we start recording, and then we go with that.
Yep.
That's the way it should be, though. Do you want to wrap here or you want to keep going?
Good wrap.
A little shorter than the other episodes, but that's okay.
Yep.
You want to do that?
Sure.
All right.
This is life being bound to love.